What up? Not all heroes wear capes, you know. Yours might have been on the ring, on the court, or even on the big screen. But a lot of mine, they flip samples and make beats. And one of the best to ever do it was this guy. During the last Dilla month, I wanted to try and figure out what might have been going through his head when he was making all of that crazy heat. So I went through reference material, did my own bits of research, and used some bits of inspiration. And of course, my own tools. I decided I was going to knock up a short series and call it Homework. And this is how it got on. Busta Rhymes and Dilla had a great MC-producer relationship. Q-Tip aligned the stars as they were both Tribe Called Quest extended family and ended up being symbiotic to each other's careers, and their left-field leanings pushed each other to stay perched on top of their game. Busta is one of the few artists to ride Dilla's stylings from the Umar Boom Bap era.
Oh shit, I'm gonna give you more and more hot flows that's gonna help you see who got the real raw.
The experimental synth pockets.
Got no time to be fucking with the one-rama niggas. Let me loosen up your girl strap, mama nigga. Listen up! Look how we be ripping up and got the party picking up and got you niggas spitting up shit.
And right back to the stripped-down soul chops at the end of Dilla's career.
I write rhymes, I write checks.
And yeah, what happened to the for the game, for the music?
Dilla had an involvement in almost all of Busta's solo discography, right up until his passing. Alright, I said almost. And it's one of the tracks from the Dilla and Busta timeline that I'm looking at today. Okay, so it's the year 2000, and Busta is about to follow up the platinum When Disaster Strikes with album number 3. Back in this era, Dilla beat tapes would literally have been beat tapes. Dilla was always on fringe studio tech, so it's not impossible he was cutting CDRs. If you don't know what a Dilla batch is, that's cool, don't worry. It's a collection of Dilla beats that would collate frequently every few months, and he'd shop them to artists.
Well, yeah, what I do is when I make CDs, I put like I call them 2 batches per CD, 24 beats per CD, 100 plus beats. So what I do, I just send them out to the labels, send them out to management. I have to stop doing that because I did that last year, yeah, and that's how the bootlegs.
That's why I'm not giving you a tape
Right. So it's like, yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
They'd select a beat to make a song to, and the labels and management would sort the legal stuff out, and Dilla would pick up a check and royalties. If you want to get into the folklore of Dilla beat tape trading, well, that's another video entirely, and something I only know a little bit about. So anyway, a batch from 2000 was circulating that kicked off with the following intro.
Check it out, y'all. Bounce. Yeah. Another batch. It's 2000. It's time to do it, y'all. Feel it.
Even though the beat was tagged up, it kind of served as an intro to the beat tape. Busta must have heard something in that made him want to pick it. Historically, Dilla would send him stuff others found it hard to rhyme to, and Busta would always do something a little quirky along the way. Maybe a challenge was somewhere in this interlude for him. The sample came from British-French avant-garde pop collective Stereolab, and was the title track from their 6th album, Cobra and FaZe's group play Voltage in the Milky Night. Given it was a modern sample, it's a testament to Dilla's DJ/music collector chops. As number 1, he'd be on the lookout for great new music, and number 2, nothing was off limits for sampling. If it was dope, it was dope.
I mean, a lot of other sort of other musics that are around. I mean, new stuff. What are things you checking?
I'm checking Radiohead. I'm checking Stereolab. I'm checking older artists.
The Stereolab album dropped in September 1999, so doing the numbers and citing this article on Anarchy from Billboard magazine in 2000 indicates a promo push earlier that February for an eventual release on June the 20th. So that's a 5-month window from Dilla hearing the Stereolab joint, flipping it, and Busta picking it and writing to it. It's kind of crazy, right? Considering we're talking music in the old world here. The sample chop utilizes the first 30 seconds of the Stereolab sample, and on first listen you may be fooled into thinking it's only a couple of chops, or even a basic loop. But he's actually using the whole 4 bars of the bass guitar phrase. It's quite busy thanks to the ride cymbal that buddies up along with it, and the loop seems a little minimized on the Busta beat, but I'd put that down to a mix of EQ and Dilla's booming drums that put that part of the sample in a headlock. Pitched down about 10 steps and chopping on the downbeat, he uses his rhythmic chops to amble the sample along in its natural fashion, but squashed together ever so slightly, like a subtle time stretch. You can hear it in the first chop that pretty much plays out in full, while the others shuffle along ever so slightly. Dilla was quoted in his last interview with Scratch magazine mentioning he likes to use a no-off feature. I found this a little tricky though, because you have to trigger the sample on time and then obviously let it play on time as well, because with no off the sample only plays as long as the pad is held down. So when I recreated this, I actually used the mute assign function so certain pads stop other ones from playing. It kind of halved the workload. Disclaimer, I'm not a crazy drum digging nerd unfortunately, and whilst I know the obvious ones, I couldn't tell you what the drums on this one is. It does sound like a trop break that's full of grit and air, and what's dope is it's taken a couple of kicks and a couple of snares in variety to keep the pattern natural. You can hear the difference in at least 2 kicks and 2 snares if you listen. One of the snares is actually a ghost note. Absent is the trademark JD bassline, but given the flavour of the sample, it's not really needed. And as far as the final beat goes, it's fairly minimal by some standards, save for a few drum mutes in the tracked beat. But I suspect Busta probably wanted it left how it was. Alright, so here's what I did. I tried my best to preserve the chops and kind of did my own thing with the drums, with a bit of a nod to the spirit of the original. Oh, I also added a little bass line as well. Here's my take-homes from the homework. Number 1, a dope sample is a dope sample. Don't let the fact that it's not from the dustiest of crates put you off. And number 2, you don't always need to go overboard with it. Dilla was a king of subtlety, and here's a prime example. Less is more. Okay, let's do it.
Nasty, ain't it? Brand new shit with the blend. Can't f with it, it's impossible. With the blend.
here's a fun little side note. Madlib must have somehow got his hands on the original beat CD as well, and he laced his version of The Message over the beat tape version. You can even hear Dilla's tag still in it.
We close to the end. I'm trying
Check it out,
not
y'all.
to lose the skin. I'm in. It's not worth it sometimes. It makes me wonder if we're all going under. It's not worth it sometimes.
Check it out,
It makes me
y'all.
wonder if we're all going under. To my nigga Tay Rock, he turns it out. To Rhythmatic, turns it out. To Mr. Chalk,
It's 2000.
what that means.
It's time to do it, y'all.
What's cool is, this was actually the first kind of official/unofficial J-Lib song, which birthed the J-Lib project. Pretty cool, right? I'll see you next time.